Everyone is gathered here to hear the beautiful words of Rabbi Nissel. Thankfully, and to my amazement, Baruch Hashem, the computer is telling me that we have over 760 participants, and the sponsors and organizers of this program, coming directly from Yerushalayim, are across the world, certainly across the United States. I'm sitting here in Scottsdale, Arizona. My name is Ariel Shoshan. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the rabbi of a shul called Avos Torah. And we hosted Rabbi Nissel a year ago, and we wanted to bring this program to everyone as well. We're partnering with Project Inspire Arizona, Makor Synagogue here in Scottsdale, Avos Torah Center in Henderson, Nevada, Beth Israel in Edmonton, Alberta, Partners in Torah in Cincinnati, from the Cincinnati Kollel, Ner HaMizrach in Atlanta, the Westwood Kehila in Los Angeles, Ashreichem Yisrael in Seattle, the Jewish Experience in Denver, Aish Denver, Am Echad in San Jose, and the Shar in New York. And thank you all for creating such a widespread participation. We're going to go right into, I'm going to pass things over to Rabbi Nissel right away.
I want to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the power of technology that it has allowed this extraordinary event to happen. I just want to remind my audience how I began a few minutes ago. The responses that I have had to the questions about Mashiach is basically broken down into two camps. Those that are saying, is Mashiach coming? And those that are saying, is Mashiach coming? Like they're nervous, they're afraid. What does it mean? So I want to address both groups if I can. The question whether or not Mashiach is coming is answered with three simple words. I don't know, which means I cannot tell you with the powers of my prophecy whether or not this extraordinary events that we are going through right now is going to end with the coming of Mashiach. What I can say is that a lot of things are falling into place. In other words, as Rav Dessler writes, that we know before Mashiach comes, there is going to be what's called a magefa, a plague. So these are one of the signs that Mashiach are coming. However, we know from our history that there have been many moments in our history where we've been excited about things, and God forbid, we do not want this to end like it did in 1945 when the Kloisenberger Rebbe, the holy Rebbe who went through Auschwitz and went through all the pain of losing 11 family members and his wife, and at the end, when he saw the American troops, he cried for the first time, because he said, in my heart, I was convinced that the Holocaust would end with the coming of Mashiach. And when I see that it did not, he was literally heartbroken. Now, we all know that the Holocaust was 100 times worse than what we're going through now, 100 times crazier than what we're going through now. And yet it did not end with the coming of Mashiach. However, that does not mean that we should not do our part. And to say to Hashem from the bottom of our hearts, we do not want things to go back to normal, because normal was never particularly good, was never particularly wonderful. There was a lot of problems before coronavirus. We want that now that you have shaken up this world, to bring the world to its conclusion. And therefore in our tefillos, in our prayers, when we say those holy words in our Shemona Esrei, in our Amida, we say the words, Ki lishuascha kivinu kol hayom, for your salvation we are awaiting literally all day long. We have to now train ourselves to really say this from the bottom of our hearts. Let me just translate to you. The words Ki lishuascha kivinu kol hayom, we are waiting for you all day long, does not mean literally 24 hours a day. That is something that is not possible. What it does mean is that Mashiach has to become central to our lives, in the same way that if someone is traveling and they say, to their loved one, I think of you all day long, she knows that he doesn't mean it literally. She knows that what he means when he sees a beautiful sunset, he says, I wish I could share it with my loved one. When he sees that there's sales on in the local shopping mall, he said, thank God my wife is not here. That was a joke. The point I'm trying to make is that Hashem being central, having Mashiach in our lives, that's what the words Ki lishuascha kivinu kol hayom has to mean to us. So what I want to share with you is that for those of you that want to know, is he or is he not coming? I don't know. But can we try and make him come over the next couple of days with absolutely 100% conviction? It is definitely inside of our hands. What about the nervous types? What about those of you who are afraid of Mashiach coming? So basically, in my experience, you break down into two categories. There are those who have been terrorized into thinking that for some reason Mashiach will not come for you. Now, I don't know where this comes from, but I know that there are certain type of educators. I call them dementor mechanchem. These are people who are in chinuch, in education, who like to terrorize their students. And therefore they say 80% of the population will not make it for Mashiach comes, because that's what happened when we came out of Egypt. My dear friends, Reb Aaron of Belz said that the terror that is supposed to precede Mashiach is behind us. That was the Holocaust, the real evil, the real huge numbers of people that died and went through hell and back. That is behind us. Every single Jew will be there to greet Mashiach. Every single one of us. I've heard this from my teachers again and again. We have nothing to fear about us in person. Again, some of you may have had scary teachers. I have to share this with you. Last year, I was in a Beis Yaakov, in a religious school in somewhere in America, and I gave over this class, and a parent wrote to me and said that my daughter needed therapy after one of the teachers had told her that you will not deserve the King Mashiach. And then she said to me that when you came and you spoke in the school, afterwards she came home with a big smile and said, Mom, I don't need the therapist anymore. Rabbi Nissel fixed everything. Everything I am telling you this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are, is based solidly on Torah sources. Mashiach is coming for every single Jew without exception. Mashiach will love the worst sinner more than you and I can ever love the holiest person, the most beautiful person in the world. Mashiach comes for every single Jew, and what I'm going to do with you right now is share with you a description of what it's going to be like when he comes. The goal of this presentation is very, very simple. The goal is to take away the fear by trying to picture and imagine what it will be like. Everything I'm going to be saying to you right now is based on sources. I'm happy to share my sources with anyone that asks questions, not while I'm speaking, but afterwards. But you should know that the way I am doing my presentation is very simple. I went through every source on Mashiach that I could find, and I asked myself a simple question. What can I relate to? What can I actually envision? And that's how I built my story. Now, my rabbi, Rav Moshe Shapiro, he's no longer with us. But when I wrote this class, I asked him a very, very simple question. I said to him, at the end of the day, this class is basically my imagination picturing things. I know that when it happens, it's going to be 1,000,000 times more beautiful. But should I not share the story that comes from one man's imagination? And these are the words that he said. He said, Menachem Tida Masha, you should know something. If you can get one of the over 900 people listening to my class now, if one of them will afterwards go to their sitter, go to their prayer book, and underline the words, Ki Lishuascha Kivinu Kolayom, and say those words with real intent, with real kavana, Hashem, I really want him to come. So everything you're doing will have been worthwhile. So with that in mind, I will begin my story, but one more thing I want to share with you. This is the first time I've told this story in the middle of literally a plague, something terrifying that we're going through. I want you to know that the first famous plague that is written down in our liturgy is the story of King David. In the times of King David, at the end of the book of Samuel of Shmuel Hanavi, at the very end of the Sefer, the last verse of Sefer Shmuel of the book of Samuel, talks about how Hashem ended the plague. There was a plague that King David and the Jewish people suffered from. 70,000 people died. 70,000 people died. According to one opinion, the plague lasted half a day. How did it end? So I have in front of me, okay, my little book of Samuel. It says, Vayivan Shom David Mizbeach LaHashem Vayal Oilis L'Shlamim. Before the plague ended, King David did something very simple. He bought a plot of land from a man called Arnava who owned the place of the future Jewish temple. He bought that land. He immediately made sacrifices to God on that land. And that was the first thing he did, meaning that the first thing he did to stop the plague is said, we're not going backwards, we're going forwards. We're going to go out of this plague and we're going to build the first Jewish temple. Just like now, you and I want to go out of this plague and go and build the third and final temple. And the verse continues, Vaye'aser Hashem la'aretz, says the Targum, the translation of these words, God heard the prayers of the people. Vateyatza hamegefa me'al Yisrael, and that's how the plague ended, like that. After half a day, King David said, we're going to move forward. We're going to build the first temple. The Jewish people were praying like crazy. And Hashem says, finish. And it finished like that. And for those of you who are not convinced, and those of you who are thinking that's a story that goes back from biblical times, well, 2,000 years ago, in the times of the Romans, there are two stories brought down in the Zohar, two separate stories. One with Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, the other a man called Rav Achai, two separate people, two separate plagues. And they came along and they prayed, and boom, the whole thing stopped. Meaning, it is possible for a plague to end overnight. These are historical stories, three of them that I just shared with you. King David, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and Rav Achai. And with that, my dear friends, I want you to relax and to listen to a story about what is going to happen. And I want you to picture this while I'm saying this with your imagination. And then say to yourself, when it does happen, it's going to be infinitely more beautiful. All that's left for me to do is to really want it and to really pray for it. It was a beautiful Monday in wherever you happen to be listening to. Here in Jerusalem, we're still waiting for Susie Sunshine to come out. It's still the end of our winter. Tomorrow morning, it's going to be a beautiful day, God willing. An ordinary day. Everyone's trying to figure out another day in quarantine. How are we going to make it through this day? What are we going to be doing with our kids today? It's just one of those days. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, there's an announcement on every single news outlet. Something extraordinary, and everyone's talking it. The internet is abuzz with one thing and one thing only. And that is that the rabbis in Jerusalem, the great rabbis here in the land of Israel, have made a joint statement that they have just met a man and they are convinced that he is the Melech HaMashiach, the King Mashiach. And they are asking every single Jew in every corner of this world to get on a plane and this Thursday afternoon to come and greet them. And you're watching this and you are convinced, you're on candid camera. How can this be? This is crazy. Some kind of a sick joke. Is this fake news? But then, out of nowhere, you're also watching on the BBC and on CNN and on Fox News or whatever is your particular taste, that they're all saying that they can't explain this. But suddenly, the virus has disappeared. Corona has gone back to being just a pleasant Mexican beer. And no one can explain this. And for some extraordinary reason, there are literally thousands of planes across the world that are ready to fly Jews to the land of Israel. And before you know it, you're not going to miss out on this opportunity. You and your community, Rabbi Shoshan in Scottsdale is getting his community all pumped up, and that's it. Every single one of you are getting on those planes that are ready to go. And this is happening across the world, not just in North America. In South America, they're singing Mashiach, we want Mashiach, da, 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 da. And here in Europe, where we are in England, the British, Jolly could show anyone from Mashiach, they say what not. The French, but they demand pour la Mashiach, oui, oui. The Italians, is it so nice to be the Mashiach? It come with the pizza and the mama. The Germans, yeah, are marching towards Mashiach 1, 2, 3. South Africans coming with their biltong. Australian, this is my friend Sheila, it's my friend Bruce. Nice to meet you nice. The Russians come too. The Russians come with their mafia connection. And before we know it, in Ben Gurion Airport, there is the greatest movement of humanity that the world has ever seen. Every moment, another plane is landing. Suddenly, Kvish Achad from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv is chock-a-block like we've never seen since the last Chol HaMoed. And they're arriving in Yerushalayim, and with minutes, everything has been set up, and you have young men, yeshiva bachrim, are giving out to every single Jew instructions exactly where they should be for this procession that is meeting the Melech HaMashiach. And everyone gets a piece of paper. On that piece of paper, it says exactly where you need to stand on Rehov Yafo, because the procession is going down Rehov Yafo. And on that piece of paper, you get, let's see if I can do this with my technology. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's see if I can do a share screen. No, it's disabled because I wanted to show you the 5 blessings that you will see when you see the Melech HaMashiach. It's written out with the Jerusalem municipality heading paper. Number 1, when you see Mashiach, you got to say Shechianu. Stop and think. Could there ever be a more propitious moment, a more exciting moment to say Shechianu, V'kiyamonu, V'higiyonu Lazman Hazeh? Hashem, thank you for bringing me here at this extraordinary moment. And then there's 2 more brachos. One is for seeing a great king, and one is for seeing a great Torah scholar. The one that you say for a great king is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Shechalak, Michvaydai Liyareach, who gave over for his honor. We have not said this blessing since biblical times. The other bracha is a blessing we say on a great Torah scholar, Shechalak Michachmasai, from his wisdom Liyareach. Then there's a unique blessing for seeing 600,000 Jews in one place. That bracha is called Chacham Harazim, literally means the wise one, that's God, Harazim, that knows the secrets of the unique, of every single Jew. So now, I don't know if you've ever realized this, but no 2 people look alike. You know why? Because every person has their own story, their own legacy, their own destiny, their own story to tell. Look at the person next to you. Notice how different you look from him or her. Secretly, you're thinking to yourself, thank God. But the reason why you are so different from that person is because you have your story to tell. Now, Hashem knows 600,000 Jews, like a conductor with his orchestra, the uniqueness of every person and how they can play together. So that is the bracha that you say when you see 600,000 Jews in one go. What is the 5th bracha that you're going to say? The 5th bracha is going to be said for the very last time. What is that blessing? Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Goyel Yisrael, who has finally redeemed the Jewish people. So there we have it. You get your piece of paper, you go to your position, and there you are on Rehov Yafo. Men on one side, women on the outside. This is so exciting. You look around, everyone is there. your family, your friends, people you have not seen for ages. There is so much excitement going on. And then the procession begins. And the procession begins very simply with a bunch of Jerusalem, Yerushalmi children singing along Yamim al Yamei Melech, which is a song that you sing for a great rabbi. And you look at these kids and they are so cute, dressed up on their Shabbos clothing. And one of them by chance looks just like me, just a little version, because that's going to be my grandson, Shlomi Nisso, all the way from Beit Vegan, belting out Yamim al Yamei Melech Teisif. And then this procession moves past, and you look forward, and there you see another procession coming towards you, more dignified. And some of you may recognize their faces. These are the leaders of the Jewish people, the great rabbis who have come from all over the world, linked hand in hand, their faces beaming with joy. And you watch them as they walk past, and then in the distance, down, coming towards you, you see something that looks like a bright light. It's the strangest thing. A bright light is walking towards you. And then you realize that bright light is not walking towards you. It's actually riding on a simple donkey. And you're confused. This is 2020. Why is someone riding on a donkey? And then you remember that those of you who are students of the Maharal of Prague, in many places he explains that Mashiach rides a donkey just like Avram, on the way to the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, he went on a donkey. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he came to save the Jewish people, came on a donkey because a donkey symbolizes the word chaymer, which means the physicality of the world. A chamor, which is a donkey, symbolizes the physicality of the world. Riding on a donkey means that we will now control the physicality. For example, I am now using technology. I'm using the internet. The internet is a mixed bag. It can be good, it can be bad. The question is who is in control. We will control the internet only for the good purposes. We will control our phones. Those of you who, like me, are a little addicted. We are now in control of every single physical thing in this world. Hey, how about this one? We'll be in control of our food instincts. You like that, right? You'll be able to say, I'm not having that. And then you'll say, this I want. And it's exactly what you want. Riding on a donkey means you're in control. And you watch this bright light coming towards you. And you realize you're looking at a person. And the reason why he is so bright is because this person's neshama is neshama that we have not seen since the times of Moshe Rabbeinu. Remember, his face was covered with a mask because neshama would shine through. And his face was shining like some of the holy people that we have not seen in generations. And as he comes towards you, your heart is starting to beat because you are feeling two contradictory emotions that you cannot explain. On the one hand, you have never felt so much awe in the presence of a human being. You look at this person's face and it is shining, filled with holiness. You say, I should not be looking like Moshe could not look at the burning bush. This person is something that radiates so much kedusha. You feel you got to step back. But on the other hand, you look at his eyes and you see it's radiating so much love for every single Jew. Never in the history of the world has eyes radiated so much. I do not judge you. I love the worst Jew. I love the lowliest person more than anyone else could love the biggest tzaddik, the biggest holy person. He looks like a long-lost grandpa. You just want to run up to him and give him a hug. So you've got these two feelings. The feeling you want to step back and the feeling you want to rush towards him. And then you realize why those great rabbis of Jerusalem, when they saw him, they said, this has got to be our man. This is the person we've been waiting for. You take out your piece of paper You say, Shechiyanu b'kimonu, Hashem, thank you that I'm here at this beautiful moment. You say the blessing for a great king, the blessing for a great rabbi. And then you look around you and you say, it's so good to be a Jew. I'm so privileged to be part of the nation of the world that is the light to the other nations. And you see the blessing, Chacham HaRazim, the wise one, God that knows what makes us so special. And then you look at that last blessing and you realize that there are tears that are running out of your eyes. And you look around you and everyone's crying, but these are not tears of sadness. These are tears of so much joy. These are tears of thousands of years that we've been waiting for this moment. And now you're witnessing it with your own eyes. And with that little piece of strength that you have inside of you, you say, Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu, Melech HaOlam, Goyal Yisrael, who has finally redeemed the Jewish people. And your heart is palpitating, but before you know it, those people that came to greet you when you came to the city are telling everyone, the show's over, go home. Go back to Scottsdale, Arizona. Go back to Miami, go back to New York, go back to London, go back to South Africa. And before you know it, you're back where you are now in your homes, and you're rubbing your eyes and you're asking yourself, is this real? Did I imagine this? Is this some kind of a big joke? But then you realize it's real because you're watching the news, and the news is displaying the most extraordinary information. The children of Ishmael have announced their allegiance to the Jewish king, the Melech HaMashiach. This is crazy. The rabbis tell us that the first non-Jews to come back home are the ones who are our biggest enemies at the moment. Yishmael wants to go back to the house of Avraham Avinu. They are dancing for Mashiach across the globe. You watch them dancing in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Algeria, in Libya, in Sudan, and Egypt. You watch them dancing in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, in the Gulf states. You watch them dancing in Turkey, and in Lebanon, and in Syria, and in Iraq, and in Iran, and in Pakistan, and in India, and in Afghanistan. 1.5 billion Muslims are singing Mashiach, 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 dan, 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 and they're so exciting. They're so excited to see him. What is going on? And your neighbors, your Muslim neighbors are offering to help. What can we do to get closer to you guys? And then you realize that the good times are here. And everything is going to be okay. And the world has finally changed. But unfortunately, it doesn't go that simple. Because the next day, you realize that some of your other neighbors, who have been such good neighbors, are suddenly looking at you with angry and jealous eyes. Who are these neighbors? They are called in rabbinic language the children of Esav. Those people who are aligned to Western society, who for the last 2,000 years have run the world. There's a strain of them who come from a man called Amalek, who are rabid anti-Semites. And they're not ready to give over running this planet the way they've been doing for the last few thousand years so easily. So you know what happens next? You wake up one day to your deepest, darkest nightmare. You know what's just happened? There's been a military coup in the United States of America. That's it. The army has taken over. They sent Trump back to his tower. The Senate, Congress have been disbanded. There are tanks on the streets of Washington. And before you have a chance to adjust to this, there's been a revolution in England, in France, Germany. Russia does not need the revolution. Russia is in. And before you know it, millions and millions of rabid anti-Semites have elected this new leader. And this new leader, when you see his face, you cannot look at him because this man radiates so much evil. His name is George Gog Shmogel. No one can pronounce his name. They call him Gog for short. And this man, Gog, takes over what is called the Magog Coalition. United States of America, the French, the Germans, the Russians, the British, even the Canadians are providing maple syrup and lumberjacks to Gog's army. It is really scary. Now, I want to ask you, those of you throughout the world that are listening now, will you or will you not be scared? So at first glance, you're going to be terrified. They have announced that they are going to march with millions and millions of soldiers to Jerusalem. They're going to find Mashiach. They're going to hang him from a public square. And they're not going to be wimpy like Hitler. They're not going to make concentration camps. They're going to go from home to home to home and kill and kill and kill Jews until the whole planet is Judenrein. Nobody left. Will you be scared? My dear friends, you heard it from me first. You will not be scared. You will not be scared at all. I'll tell you why. Because this is what's happening meanwhile in Jerusalem. The head of the Israeli Defense Forces goes to the Melech HaMashiach and says, Kvod Harav, Tzahal Bershutcha, the Israeli army is at your service. The Melech HaMashiach looks with his beautiful, kind eyes and says, Habibi, ze beseder, I don't need you. So what do you mean you don't need me? How are you going to fight? He says, let's be honest. How long can the Israeli army fight millions of soldiers with all their firepower? How long can you last? He says, you're right. Maybe, I don't know, 35 minutes. Mashiach says, it's okay. Go home. Everything's going to be just fine. What are you going to do? It's my problem. I'll take care of things. Mashiach goes to the Mir Yeshiva. Where's Rabbi Finkel, the Rosh Yeshiva? Rabbi Finkel comes down and says, what do you want from me? I want your top 10 guys. He says, what for? I'm looking for fighters. Rabbi Finkel basically cries from laughter and says, are you out of your mind? Are you serious? Do you know what my top 10 guys look like? They are feeble, weak guys. They can't carry a sefer. It's like too heavy for them. Bring them out anyhow. Then he takes the top 10 guys from Panovich, from Chevron, from Brisk, the top 10 guys from the top Hasidic yeshivas, the top 10 guys from Porat Yosef, Merkaz Harav, all the best yeshivas across the planet. He gets together an army of 200 to 300 of the best Torah scholars on the planet, and it's not a pretty sight. They are these feeble guys. They can barely carry their Gemaras. Mashiach gives out guns, and most of them are actually holding them in the wrong direction. And Mashiach says to them, listen, guys, stop thinking in Torah thoughts. Focus on me. We have a battle to fight. I'm going to teach you how to fire a rifle. You know what happens next? What happens next is the most extraordinary chapter in military history. It makes the Exodus look pathetic, look feeble. What happens next is just incredible. Before we know it, Gog is dead. Magog has been destroyed. Millions and millions of Christians and atheists across the world are screaming their allegiance to the Melech HaMashiach. In Rome, the Pope, he takes off his red kippah and he puts on a black kippah. And he says, we were just joking about all this Christianity thing. Give me a chance to teach you now the Shema. And this is what's happening. Christianity, Islam, the whole world. Now comes the fun, right? The Melech HaMashiach says, my dear friends, now does not come the fun. Now comes the hard work. What happens next is the most busiest, intense days of Jewish history. Mashiach is inviting every single Torah Jew to come and visit him in his office in Yerushalayim. Wherever you may be, you're getting letters from the Melech HaMashiach, and he's asking you to come and visit him in his office. Now, I don't know who's listening, but I do know that some of my seminary students said they were listening. Imagine a fictitious seminary student. Her name is Ricky. Ricky comes all the way from Monsey, and she arrives to meet the Melech HaMashiach. She knocks on his door. She's got an appointment for 11 o'clock. Mashiach's wife answers the door. Oh, did I forget to tell you? Of course, Mashiach's married. Mashiach's wife is as extraordinary as he is. And she says, Ricky, this is great, okay? I'm so happy you came. And she just comes out with a tray of cookies because amongst her many, many talents, besides being an awesome teacher herself, Mashiach's wife is also, she's got this awesome chocolate chip cookies with I don't know, it's like crunchy on the outside and soft and chewy in the middle with hunks of chocolate, and it's fresh out the oven, and Ricky's like gorging herself. And the Melech Mashiach calls her in and says, Shalom Aleichem, Ricky from Monsey. I just want to say to you, you have to go back tomorrow because in your area in New York, there are thousands of people who have been asking me, please send me teachers. And Ricky says, what do you want from me? I'm 16 years old. I don't know how to teach. Mashiach says, trust me, at this moment now, you are the best teacher they will ever have. You'll teach them how to read Hebrew. You'll teach them the basics of Judaism, the basics of keeping Shabbos and kosher. Hashem's going to tell everyone to become teachers. That's what's going to happen. Where you are now, listening to me, within a radius of 100 miles, you know how many people are going to want to learn Torah? This is how it begins. And Ricky gets up to leave. And as she's about to leave, Mashiach says, oh, by the way, I just wanted to tell you that that I want to thank you on behalf of the Jewish people. And she goes, why me? She goes, do you remember that time when that weird British rabbi, Menachem Nissel, gave his class over Zoom, and he told everyone to daven for me, and he told people to underline the words Ki Lishuasa Kavina Kayom, and you actually did it? And she says, yeah, I remember, because after that class, I had a really, really intense mincha. Thank you, says the Melech HaMashiach, because that's when Hashem told me to come. That was it. That was the straw that broke the proverbial back of the camel. 2,000 years of tefillos, waiting for that one tefillah from Allah, and that was you. Ricky's like, whoa, this is crazy. Now, I just have to tell you, sometimes when I give this class, I do something nasty. If I'm teaching girls who are on the shidduch age, Moshiach says, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but my wife and I do shidduchim as well. And we just had this yeshiva bacha, and we think this could work. I don't know why. For some reason, this really gets people to want Mashiach to come. Mashiach's going to solve the shidduch crisis. The bottom line is that what happens next is that everyone is just oozing with the desire to learn Torah. Now, I just had this funny thought while I'm speaking to you, because the whole world is getting used to a world without sports. You know what it is? I had a taxi driver 2 weeks ago. He says, I can forgive God for all the craziness, but why did he have to stop European soccer? So we're getting used to not seeing adult men in shorts in public kicking the ball. Instead, we are training our brains to think on a much higher, on a much more profound, on a much more real way. So Mashiach is going to get us into that zone. And the real pleasure is going to be the intellectual pleasure of learning Hashem's beautiful, beautiful Torah. And it's going to start off simple, and it's going to get more and more interesting and more exciting and more fascinating. And the whole world is going to be Malei Haaretz De'as Hashem. But that's not all, because the Melech HaMashiach is going to be asking, who out there knows technology, knows how to build, who's an architect? And before you know it, many of you listening are going to be asked to join the great third Beis HaMikdash project. And this is not going to be a regular building. There's going to be a building that dwarfs in both beauty and size and complexity any other building in history. This is the building. And it's going to be state of the art. So some of you in technology are going to be working on the Mashiach app. And that's it. You don't just bring a carbon. You're probably going to have to use the Mashiach app, or if you're like me, old school, you just use your phone and you call, 1-800 Beis Hamikdash. And you probably get an answer machine that goes like this. Hello, you have reached the Beis Hamikdash. If you'd like to bring an Ola, press 1. If you'd like to bring a Shlamim, press 2. If you'd like to bring a Chatas, naughty, you press 3. Something like that is going to be happening. And that's it. The Beis Hamikdash is up. And the whole world is studying Torah. And people are not just learning the intellectual side, they're working on becoming better people and becoming nicer people. You can't believe what's happening. People are polite to each other. Even in Brooklyn. And a four-way stop. No, after you. Don't after you. No, forget about it. It's okay. You want some chocolate? Everyone is being so nice to each other. It's insane. And as people are becoming nicer, the world is slowly moving back to the way it was always supposed to be. We move back, as the holy books say, back to that world called the Garden of Eden. And before you know it, the police forces, they're gone. And they're all studying Torah. Armies have disbanded, and they're turning all their instruments into like farming instruments. And before you know it, those of you who are doctors out there, nurses, there's nothing left for you to do. Because people are all healthy, like we were at Mount Sinai, when the Torah itself healed people. And that's it. Don't worry, because you're going to be so busy studying Torah, you're not going to miss it. People are going to look at the mirror. They look beautiful. Everyone's a supermodel. Clearasil goes bankrupt. That's it. Your faces are shining. They're so beautiful. And then Mashiach makes the following announcement. My dear friends, those of you who have been careful not to watch television, not to go on the internet, not to watch cable because you're concerned that you may see things that are inappropriate, don't worry. Today, everything is Mashiach television. Everything is Mashiach approved. So you go straight for your nearest cable TV, you put it on, it's insane. A sensor comes out and checks out if you're male or female. And if you're female, you're instantly directed to women's television. So you press, you press on the music stations, and you cannot believe what is going on over there. All the famous female singers have now began to sing songs about sneers, about modesty. What is going on over there? Your favorite pop singers are now getting nose jobs because they want their noses to be look Jewish. And this is insane. Adele has changed her name to Adele, and she's singing Shalom Aleichem from the other side. Brindle Spears is just telling everyone to wear long dresses. And there you are. Wonder Woman has changed her name to Ashes Chayil. This is extraordinary. Rebbetzin Gaga is telling your grandmother how to wear her sheikhs properly. The world is going to meet your brothers are watching, men's TV, and they're watching on the music station. You've got rappers, but they're rapping Mishnayos. This is whoa, what's going on over there? All your favorite shows have become Mashiach appropriate. This is like Jeopardy. I'm going to take Bracha Achrona for 200 bob. Reality shows. Shidduch Island. We took the top 5 yeshiva bachrim from Lakewood Yeshiva, and we dropped them on a gorgeous Caribbean island. Unbeknownst to them, there are shadchanim lurking behind the trees. The last one to remain single wins the $5,000 prize. This is what's going on. This is insane. It's so much fun. And meanwhile, Mom is reporting that what's happening in the local supermarket, cannot believe it. Forget about Whole Foods. Every supermarket, the fruits and the vegetables taste perfect. They taste literally like they come from the Garden of Eden. the scents that are coming out, you don't have perfumes made from chemicals. Everything is from nature. The world smells beautiful. The world tastes beautiful. Everything is going back to the way it was in the Garden of Eden. Mashiach is encouraging people to go for their vacation on Mashiach eco tours. That's it. You go to the Amazon, you go to Brazil, and you see the Amazon forest is back to its resplendent beauty. And then suddenly, you see like a jaguar, not the car, the animal. And it's running towards you. You go like, oh, I'm so afraid, but it jumps at you and starts licking you because these big cats love human beings. No one wants to hurt anyone anymore. Everything is so beautiful. Everything is so perfect and fragrant. At this stage now in Mashiach history, things slowly but surely start to become boring. What do I mean by boring? The rabbis have warned us that towards the end of the Mashiach era, which, as we've been explaining, is the last era before the world to come, this Mashiach story is the last chapter of Olam Hazeh. What happens next? You start to feel, I can't do sins anymore. You go to the shopping mall, all the clothing is appropriate. Everything is just so, everyone's nice to, everyone's studying Torah. Everything is so perfect in every way. Like, so what's the point? There's no challenges anymore. And then, and then, those of you who have lost loved ones, those of you that have parents, maybe grandparents, that are in the world of souls, you suddenly feel that these people are very close. You suddenly have this tremendous feeling as if to say, they never really died. Death all along was nothing more than an illusion. Well, guess what? Your feelings are right. And Mashiach says, I want to give my very last speech because I need to retire. My job is basically over. And Mashiach gets up and he announces, and he says, my beloved Jewish people and all the nations of the world that are listening to me now, I want you to know the world has finally reached its perfection. Those of you who feel close to people that you thought that were dead, you're wrong. I mean, you're right because your feelings are correct, but you're wrong because they never died. Death was an illusion. What you thought was death was nothing more than planting seeds into the ground. And when they come back, they're going to come back in their full beauty. And everyone's going to experience together like an orchestra where everyone is playing their instrument in perfect harmony with everyone else. And the name of that beautiful symphony is called Hashem Echad. God is one. Because God, He is the great conductor. He is the one that brings every single human being into perfect harmony with everyone else, to the point that you can actually hear the music of the animals and the music of the planets and the music of every blade of grass and every drop in the ocean, and everything's in harmony with everything else. And that's the pleasure and the joy and the true beauty of the world to come. And with this, I end my story. But to be honest with you, the story never really began. Because one thing I promise you, one thing I can promise you, I can put a hand on the Chumash, when it happens, it's going to be 1,000 times more beautiful than anything I can ever describe. The only question is, who from my listeners is going to be that person who goes to his or her sitter and sees the words, Ki Lishuascha Kivina Kol Hayom, in that blessing that we ask for Mashiach, for your salvation, we're waiting all day long, and underlines it, and then says it the next time with real feeling. Hashem, the world cannot continue the way it is. And we don't want to go back to the way it was, because the way it was never particularly good. There was pain before coronavirus. People that couldn't find shidduchim, people that had terrible marriage, people that had children that was sick, terrible stories that we heard day and night. It wasn't that good. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be good. It's going to be beautiful. Just need you to be that person, to say that tefillah from the bottom of your heart like you really mean it. So here I sit in my little cave in Yerushalayim HaKodesh. And I'm sitting over here with fear all around me. But I know that that fear, it's just an illusion, because behind that is a loving God who is radiating so much love that is going to show us that everything we thought is not what it seems. And the question that I leave this class with is one question and one question only. Who is going to be that person whose prayers for Mashiach is going to be the Ricky of my story? That, my dear friends, is in your hands. I want to thank you so much for listening. Be'ezrat Hashem Yisparach, this Pesach, I'm going to be seeing you in Yerushalayim HaKodesh as we bring the Korban Pesach and we eat min apsachim and we eat min azvachim in the world of Mashiach with pure and parallel joy. Be'ezrat Hashem Yisparach, this year, Yerushalayim HaKodesh. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Nissel. This is Ariel Shoshan again in Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you to all the people who participated here today. There will be an opportunity to contact the organizers, hopefully to contact Rabbi Nissel also, and the recording will be available. If you've been inspired, and I'm sure you have been, then do more. Ask your Rabbeim, ask your friends, what can I do more to bring Mashiach? And we appreciate everybody being a part of this and look forward to gathering again together for great things, including the greatest of things that we've just learned so much about. Yasher Koach, Rabbi Nissel, thank you so much, and thank you again to all the partners across the globe. Ashreichem Yisrael, Kol Tuv.
Amen.